It is 6 o'clock. I will call to order the August 5th meeting of the Amity City Council. Please rise and join me in saluting the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tasha, will you take roll first, please?
Present.
No, she's online.
Oh.
Here.
Here.
Councillor Luker is showing up on the Zoom meeting. Councillor.
Here.
Oh, no.
Is it also on?
Same. Yeah, he's on.
Here. We will start the evening with the consent agenda. We have budget versus actuals and the regular city council minutes from July 15th. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Consent agenda approved. We'll move on to citizen comments and questions. This is an opportunity to present items not on the regular agenda. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We have the sheriff's office report in the packet, and I don't see a DIG representative. Do we have anyone in the audience here with us with a comment? Seeing none, do we have anyone online who would like to comment this evening? Okay. Seeing none, I'll just ask, were there any questions on the YCSO report or for DIG? Okay. We'll move on to old business, of which there is none, and into new business. We have guests with us this evening, and we'll have a presentation. We'll start with a presentation from PGE. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. That sounds good. Yep. All right, great. My name is JD Podlesnik with Portland General Electric. Been in the utility industry for over 23 years. And my background, I oversee our distribution and transmission planning. And so as you think about growth and development, my teams help support that quite a bit. I've also got our business development teams. And so as new growth, new development come in, my teams help partner with the cities, with the counties, and really work together on what does that growth, where does that growth need to happen. So appreciate being here. Just, got several customers in this area and really want to just highlight everything PGE is doing and the partnership we have between the city and what we're doing. Help answer any questions here as we go. And so you'll see we'll go through some of our resiliency efforts and some of the customer programs. All right. There we go. I like taking a second. All right. I like just showing if we look at population, and this is just pulled by zip code and our customers. So sometimes the numbers aren't exactly what you probably see, but I like calling this up as you look at growth in this area, population in 1990 to what we see in 2025. And so you can see some steady growth. This is pretty consistent with all of our municipalities in our service territory. I think what's interesting, if you go back to 1990, how many folks had air conditioning, how many folks had smartphones and all the devices. And so there's really been a lot of electrification that's occurring as the population is growing. And so even when there's some areas where there's not a ton of growth, we're still seeing that electrical demand increase as we go. The other thing I also bring up with my teams help oversee the transmission planning. So that's the really tall power structures that you see, sometimes metal, a lot of times wood. a lot of that infrastructure was built back in the 1950s, 1960s. And so really maximized, those areas of the grid. But as we get some of these large storms and events, we are looking to upgrade, replace those assets with newer assets as we go. You can see customer accounts, mainly residential, some commercial, and then just really good alignment partnerships there on the franchise payments that the PGE works on and contributes each year. So this slide really important, especially everything that's going on in the state and even today. But the majority of our capital funding and focus is helping the resiliency of the grid. And we can start over on the left and we'll work our way right. But there's been significant storms that have came through over the last few years, and it's both been winter storms and then heat domes, things like that. And so we've seen quite a bit of freezing rain in the winter, and then you've had some of the hot conditions, and that fits right in with that extreme weather events and wildfires. We've got 2 meteorologists in-house that are on staff, and so we work with them very closely. They go through a daily operations call with us and look at what's coming up today, what's coming up in the next 5 to 10 days. That's been very active. As today, the last couple of days, they were seeing that the wind was going to start coming in from the east, and what does that do to the existing fires out there? So a lot of focus on that, not only in the summer when it's dry, but also those winter storms. And that is one, if we're seeing a big ice storm or an event coming, we're also looking at staging our crews, getting additional resources in from maybe even outside the state to come in and help us with that. The middle pictures, cyber and physical security. There's bad actors out there, that are constantly trying to get into different computers and systems. And so this is a picture a few years ago. We moved all of our control room operators, all of our security IT folks, wildfire teams into a new integrated operations center. And that's a picture there of the operations center. And so all of those teams are working closely together. And if the cyber IT sees some incidents coming up, they're able to notify those operators and help monitor the grid and see what we can do to move things around in real time. Earthquakes, we've also made sure the control center is resilient to the earthquakes. We've moved it out from close to the Willamette River more into a more rocky, stable area in the Tualatin Valley, so that if there is a large earthquake, the building's able to survive, and they can work on their restoration efforts. So for any counselor or mayor that wants to go and tour the IOC, Tyler will help us set up appointments, but we want to walk folks through and showcase that facility and help answer questions there. The final thing is the regional energy emergencies. And so again, this is where, as you think about resiliency, and even the last few days, as those fires are burning, if they get close to those transmission lines, they can knock the lines out of power. Sometimes we get calls from the first responders wanting the lines de-energized so that they can do suppression, so they can set up their lines to fight. And so as you think about that, we need to keep looking at ways to reinforce the grid. Where can we bring in new resources? Where can we bring in those reinforcements on those right-of-ways, making sure the vegetation is well maintained and managed. And so that's a big piece and something, we're actively working. Very dry. Resiliency against wildfires. If you go to the PGE website, there's a really good wildfire resiliency website there to take a look at. Want to call out, so we're going after this a couple different ways. So system hardening, in our high crime risk areas, our wood poles can get burned, can get damaged. Better. So changing out some of those wood poles to a ductile iron so they're more resilient. Making sure we've got a couple of areas up in the Mount Hood area where some of the overhead lines, not only in the summer but in the winter, get hit pretty hard. So doing some of the underground conversions for those assets where it makes sense. Additional protection on the line. So think of it as like circuit breakers out on the line. If they see a fault, they're tripping, and making sure we're trying to prevent or limit that spark. The situational awareness is huge. This is a picture of one of our wildfire cameras. And so there's 90 weather stations. 40 of those have these cameras in them. Tyler, if you go to our main website, you can actually click, there's a couple cameras around this area, and they're available to the public. So you can always go in and click on that. Sometimes if you see the camera moving, that's a emergency responder or a control room moving to look in something. We've added some AI capability to those cameras as well. And so if they see a fire start or a smoke plume, they'll coordinate in on that and let the first responders know, hey, there's a new start, a new spark to go take a look at. And couple of years ago, you'd be waiting for folks to call that in, or if it happened at the middle of the night, you might not get any calls in. It's been very active as some of the lightnings went through the last month or so with those cameras, finding where new starts is. Vegetation management, other really big thing, just, year round, making sure those right of ways are maintained. And then also looking outside the right of ways. If you've got a 100-foot tree and you've only got a 10-foot, 20-foot right of way, is that tree in good health? Are there branches that could break and blow in the wind? So making sure that those branches, trees are getting out of there, and then just making sure that each fire season we get into, we're in good shape. I think other thing I would say on this as we think about prevention, and you'll see this on some of the website as well, but always being prepared for wildfire, for winter weather, making sure everyone signed up on the county emergency notifications. PGE's got an app that's a really good resource as well. That will let you know, if there's outages, when the response will be, if there's other alerts that are popping up. I know on the outage pages today, as one of the fires was moving towards Mount Hood, there was a lot of communication there on the websites just saying, hey, this fire is slowly moving towards the service territory. Make sure you're listening to the county and what they're saying for their level 1s, level 2s, level 3s, and staying coordinated there. All right, here's a picture of a couple of the cameras, and these are up on the hills. And again, you'll see these are public, so you're able to click on and take a look. And sometimes if you do see the camera rotating one way or another, that's a fire group asking for that. That's an operator asking for a camera to be moved to see if there's anything there. All right, just on the renewables, again, PGE is continuing to add the additional solar, additional wind facilities. You can see we're moving towards 46% non-emitting. Still rely quite a bit on the natural gas out there. So if you think about days when it's really cloudy and you don't get a lot of solar, or you get in a heat dome and a lot of that wind goes away. So it's finding that right balance of some of the resources that you can ramp up, ramp down, and then other renewables that you can take advantage of. We're also seeing overall in the West on the grid, a couple things. The hydro has been down the last couple of years. There hasn't been enough rain that's filling up the Columbia River up to Canada. So a lot of the time, that's where a lot of the power flows from. But California has put in a lot of solar, a lot of batteries. And so we do see times of the day where a lot of that really low cost resource is coming up when California's got a nice sunny day and they're producing more generation than they have for load. All right, want to talk a little bit about customer affordability. Go. So again, we've really been working on how do we help control and maintain our operations, maintenance, administrative costs. And so kicked off a very aggressive program last year, really trying to keep our operations and maintenance under the level of inflation. And so last year we were able to cut over 25 million of internal costs. That did include some reductions in staff, some contractors, moving that around. We've been able to carry that momentum into this year as well. So that's been really important. Ensuring fair cost allocation. I've got a slide in a minute, but as you think about new customers that come in, how do you make sure that new growth, those new customers are helping pay for those upgrades needed on the system? Maximizing external sources of funding. We've applied and received several different types of grants from the Department of Energy and through the state to help with some of our resiliency projects, some of our transmission projects. So that's been good grants to help lower the overall cost of those projects. We've also, as you think about the resources, there's tax credits, incentives sometimes on those renewable projects with the solar, with the wind. And so being able to take advantage of that. And then we'll also talk about it, but just the different programs that you can do to help lower your demand at your house, at your business, and move some of the timing of that electricity around is important. Here's the one example. So data centers come up a lot in discussions. And so before last month, there wasn't really a class. If you think about residential, commercial types of industrial, there wasn't a class for data centers. And so the Oregon Public Utility Commission went through a process following the Power Act from the governor's office. And now we've got a class specifically for data centers to where, so as their growth comes on, they're paying for that growth, and there's requirements that they've got to do within that process. And so you can see own category costs now are assigned to those data centers to pick it up. And then there's also some requirements and requests within the commission's ask on what type of energy, clean energy, are you bringing into the system as well. So that just came out in July. And so now we're working through as those large customers come in on what that looks like. Other part for affordability, again, a lot of this you'll see in the PGE app, but our customer service teams, how can we help with payments? We've got a couple different income qualified bill support that you can do. Energy Trust of Oregon, are you able to help, come into your house and make things more efficient to lower that overall electric need? That's all programs that are out there right now and available to everyone. And that is something I know, Tyler, we can work on, continue to get those messages out, whether it's, through events, flyers, through websites. So I think we're open to all of that. Here's, again, some of the small shifts. So we've got flexible load programs here. And these from a planning perspective are really critical, because those lower cost prices we get sometimes in the day when there's plenty of generation coming from California or from the Northwest when there's good hydro, that can all shift this time of the day when it's really hot out and there's not a lot of energy. And so if customers can adjust, instead of turning everything on when they're home, if they're able to set their air conditioning at a certain degree and do some of the laundry a little later, that really helps out the power grid. When we had a heating event a couple weeks ago and one of those demand response programs happened, there was over 100 megawatts of reduction right at the peak. That would be like over 30,000 houses turning everything off for those couple hours. So that's huge to the grid and helping if areas are really hot during a certain day to help mitigate that. Other one, we mentioned the income qualified bill discount. And so this again was a snapshot based on zip codes, but you can see we've got 168 households enrolled in the income qualified bill discount. We think there's a total of 434 out there. And so it's a process where the customer fills out a form and works with our agents to get that set up. And so I think that's another opportunity. We can work with Tyler and the team. How do we get that message out more? Because I think there's a lot of households that could benefit from that in the community.
So we could be looking at 60% of the residential customers would qualify
Yes.
for that type of help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amity City qualified, and like JD said, we have some specifically meant to broadcast this program is really what it comes down to. The 168 to 434 is just knowledge, like just knowing that it exists. And so we want to be out there in the community with those just to get that information out there. And we even have like pamphlets that we can leave with you at your city hall or wherever makes the most sense. So that people who get the savings that they probably.
Excuse me. If you have a speaker, could they step to the microphone?
Let me restate that. By the way, my name is Tyler Kelly, local government affairs manager. Thank you so much for having us. But just wanted to restate that, the income qualified bill discount program, what I was mentioning is that really the only reason why we find that we don't have 100% enrolled is it's just lack of knowledge and transparency out there. So it's really just an effort of getting that knowledge out there. And we want to work with you as best as possible to get everyone who needs that help enrolled. Thank you.
Thank you. And just on that note, I would say I speak for the council and please, share that information with us. I know you have people that do that, but we are a conduit and a place that people come all the time. And so the more info we can have in our hands to pass out, we're happy to partner that way.
I'll get that.
Thank you.
Two slides left here. Also wanted to let everyone know as you think about the growth in the state and especially some of the transmission upgrades that are needed out there. We're working to pull together these community advisory councils. So in separate parts of our service territory and get folks together. And, this is at the very front end of potential projects. Hear about where's a good potential route? Where's a route that's not so good? What are things to think about? What are questions there? And so we're looking to pull these different councils together. They're open to the public. We're trying to get a set number of folks in each area. And so again, this is another one. Tyler on our team, as folks are interested, we can get them to the right folks that are helping pull these together. Final slide here is again just Tyler was just recently speaking, but Tyler's the government's affair manager, really responsible, helping ensure everything is going smooth and any requests, any needs you have that are getting through. And so, if there's something that needs to be talked about or looked into, Tyler's the first point of contact, and then Tyler can go up and down the organization to get the answers needed. So just wanted to help introduce Tyler as well and let folks know that he's our key contact. So, and then, in a lot of our communities, as we get into, hey, we're interested in some residential expansion or this or that, that's Tyler will bring out the business development team and say, let's talk about what load, what timing, what does that look like? So Tyler's a great stop there. So
Thank you.
Yep. That's how this is started. I mean, PG is a big company, so it's kind of hard to know exactly who to talk to at the right time. So that's really my goal, is to make sure that you get connected with the right people. So
Thank you.
Feel free to reach out anytime. That's my first.
I think also getting messaging out in Amity, if you're up to in-person things like our Amity days or our cleanup day, having a table or a booth there just to be present and a scene at it would get probably the most coverage for our area.
Yeah, it's, Nathan and I were working together on the Amity Day. I believe that is going to get to you here soon. We had some issues with the payment system that we just transitioned to, but those are great opportunities. So next year, yeah, Nathan, let's work together on if there's like any sort of cabling opportunities. That's a great way for us to kind of get the IQD program out there and the wildfire safety issues, so that people have all that ability so it exists.
And I will say thank you. PGE has helped sponsor that event, but part of that sponsorship is you do get a space there. And anytime though, like when we do our citywide cleanups or even smaller things, if you're open, we can just reach out and just let you know with the knowledge that you're welcome to come and we'll have a table for you.
Perfect. Thanks, dude.
Great. Is there any other questions from council?
Yes,
Please, Councilor Blanco.
I had a couple of questions. I'm going to kind of go back to the beginning of some of the things you said, simply because I didn't want to interrupt you while you were speaking.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
You said that I'm calling it your command center. I forgot exactly what you called it, but it was you brought all your people together so they could all be in a kind of a central working area, I'm guessing. You said it was earthquake resilient. Just what do you mean by that? How
Yeah,
resilient?
great question. So it's one of the few buildings in the Northwest that has base isolators. And so think of them as springs or suspension springs under
I'm familiar
the
with the
building.
devices, yes.
Yep. And they can actually move 18 inches based on a severe earthquake and keep the building, everything intact there.
Great. Okay. And the other thing about your command center, you said everyone was there kind of together. Um, isn't it just a little bit like all your eggs in a basket kind of scenario though?
So yeah, I would say so. There's rotating shifts of folks, and with the utilities, there's also backup control centers if ever needed. So yeah, really good question. The reason it's important to have like some of those key members there is there's been incidents where someone goes after the fiber and tries cutting the communication, and then someone tries breaking into a substation. So there's having those teams. Not all the teams are there every single day, but they've got a representation from each of those teams there every single day.
I get it.
Yeah.
Breaking it up like that is a good way to manage a
Yeah.
command and control center. Okay. And you were saying that you are working on replacing infrastructure and such. And from what you said, I think you would agree that your infrastructure in this area runs from archaic to modern, from place to place. But what kind of a time frame are you looking at for some of these larger projects? Are you talking 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? What do you?
Yeah, I would say 5 to 10 years, especially if it's transmission projects, you're probably closer to 10 years. If it's some of the distribution feeders, those are 1 year to 2 years. And those we really work on, with the cities and counties. Is there a road widening coming up? Is there anything where it makes sense to do some of those changes at that time?
Okay. And you said you were working towards 46% non-remitting.
Yep.
What are you including in that balance?
Yeah, that's the hydro, the solar, and the wind right now. It makes up that 46%.
Okay. All right. And we already went over the discount bill program. I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to us trying to get word out on that. Um, my other big concern is it's kind of a concern I think around the country right now are data centers.
Yep.
Now, I honestly can't say that I know what Oregon's government's perspective is, but a lot of people around the country are getting a negative view of data centers because of their impact on what is a rapidly changing and unpredictable environment. So are you folks taking that broad outlook? Because of course, those things are going to impact your ability to do all the things you want to do as well.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I would start with we are doing that, and a lot of that is working with the local municipalities and the counties as well on what does that infrastructure look like? Because I think the thing that gets missed sometimes is not every data center is the same. There's some data centers in parts of the country, they take a lot of water. They look and they want to try to use a lot of natural gas as their resource. And so in Oregon, we don't see that with the data centers in our service territory that come in. They're pretty much closed loop type systems. And so it's different. And sometimes the data centers that we're working with, they're interested in the cloud computing. So they're interested in the photos and what you send to your cloud from your phone to be the storage. Whereas some parts of the country, they're doing the AI machine learning, which is a huge power ramp. And so I think it's really gets down to working with the local elected officials, the county, what makes sense for those areas. The final thing I would say too, and we've been working with the data centers here, they do bring flexibility at times as well because they don't want to lose power. So some of those data centers are putting in batteries or other backup sources. And so again, working with them on those really hot days, hey, if there's an issue, what flexibility can be brought into the system to help use your backups? Yeah, great question.
All right. Last question, big one. I didn't get a card. Can you tell me Tyler's last name?
Yep. Oh, go ahead, Kelly. Yeah.
Kelly, Kelly.
And Counselor
Thank you.
Blanco, all counselors online and anyone interested, we will have extra cards here.
Yep.
I'm getting
All
them
right,
to you.
thanks. Thank you. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
And I wanted to plug Michael since he asked some great questions about the IOC and to everyone. Like JD was mentioning earlier, we are doing tours of the IOC. Really cool opportunity to see like what we're doing behind the scenes. The next one's going to be in October. I'll send out the information. So if literally anyone within city staff or council elected is free to come and participate.
Sounds
We'd
good.
like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for our PGE representatives? Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a lot of great information and we will be in contact.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
As far as staff,
So would you be open to committee members if there was public interest, but it was people vetted it as committee members in the city? We can, yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that. I mean, once you know right off the bat.
I know.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we can definitely look into that. Yeah, absolutely. I'll take
we'll
it.
check into
And
that.
there should be more than October too. If we get a huge number of folks, we can figure out how to help split it.
Okay,
Trying to get them regularly, the only reason why we're waiting till October is harvest. And that's a very
Busy.
important facility to have during that.
busy time. Awesome. Thank you.
You also-
And we'll keep you in the loop as to the answers that we get. Yes. Our next item of new business is the League of Oregon Cities legislative priorities. So in our packet, we got the full rundown of what the LOC committees have brought forward as potential top priorities in the coming legislative session. Did all the counselors have a chance to read through those? I was kind of looking to see if there were lists. If we had lists that we could share, we could see what the overlap is and see if some rise to the top.
Anybody else?
Any input?
I can start. Go ahead. The support municipal cybersecurity proficiency seems sort of important during an explosion of, sorry. The support municipal cybersecurity proficiency seemed important during an explosion of technology and AI happening. I had on my list invest in community energy resilience and disaster planning.
Support expedited local renewable energy generation. Infrastructure funding and water workforce development.
So I had some overlap. I had the ratepayer assistance for the wastewater and wastewater, water reuse, infrastructure funding as well, transportation package, and the renewable energy.
Ratepayer assistance, renewable energy. What was the one in the middle? I'm sorry.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Other input from counselors? If you all don't mind, I'll fill a little bit of time with what I chose and why. I feel like I'm coming in with a bit of bias. I served on the Water and Wastewater Policy Committee, and so we spent a lot of time drilling down to which priorities in that section would come forward. With that, my number one was the infrastructure funding, and I think we all know why. It's just a dire need across the state, especially for us small rural communities. And I will say, I've been a champion of the ratepayer assistance. When the federal funding came and Oregon was able to stand up that program, I sat through those rulemaking meetings and I watched the program get launched and get the framework started. The reason I didn't put my vote behind that this time is choosing it to be a LOC legislative priority. I think might not be the best use because there's not federal funding behind it. The reason we were able to stand up that program, which is great, it's there, it's modeled after LIHEAP, it's ready to go, but without federal funding, I don't feel like that might be the best use of advocacy for lobbying because our legislature is not going to get behind a program that we don't have money for. So it was put on that list kind of as something that we don't want to see fall away. Keep it in the conversation. But if we're trying to drill down to 5 top priorities, it might not want to be the loudest voice because we know that it's just something that needs to not fall away, rather than being a top lobbied position.
That's how I felt about a couple of these. While important, I don't think it would have any teeth in the administration now.
So quickly, I had 2nd through 5th, resilience and disaster planning, emergency communication system resource, Administrative Procedures Act reform, and land availability streamlining. I am going to focus in on my number 3, the emergency communication systems resources. This is because I know from sitting in the YCOM board, the 911 tax that we have right now that was brought up to $1 per line, $1.25 per line, is going to sunset. And just within our YCOM district, that will leave us with a deficit of $900,000. We'll be losing just from that. And so putting the resources behind keeping that tax going. I know this was lobbying for an increase and getting more support in that area, but what it comes down to is that if we don't talk about the importance of that tax will sunset. Right now, every single phone line is paying that tax with every single bill. And if we don't talk about the importance of that, it's not just our agency, it's every agency around the state will lose the equivalent of, I forget what I read now, but sometimes up to 40% of their funding to stay afloat comes through that. So
When will that sunset?
I believe it's 2028.
Okay.
I would have to look it up to say that with more confidence, but it's within the next couple years. It's not this fiscal year, possibly next.
Well, I imagine these things take time, so the more time, the better.
And it would be something that hopefully would be passed in the 2027 legislative session to make sure we didn't lose that chance. And then I just had to focus on the Administrative Procedures Act reform is because every single agency has different rulemaking policies. And when you try to get on there and keep track of things and how they're changing and when they've been changed, and if you want to be notified of how they've been changed, it's different if you're dealing with DEQ, if you're dealing with ODOT, if you're dealing with DLCD, and something that could be set in law and by our lawmakers, I feel is better than the agency taking a step to be like, oh, well, this is how we make our rules. Internal policy, I think is great and it's important, but I also think we need to reform the way that it's set forth their guides through state law.
Wait now, quick question. Doesn't
Yeah.
it seem kind of un-American to take the power of a bureaucracy away to neutralize any positive efforts you make? I mean, don't we count on our bureaucracies to do that? I mean,
I,
talking about making it make sense.
well, I would like just to advocate for the transparency and availability of participation. So that's why I prioritize that one.
Sounds like a good one.
It's been a personal frustration. So. So as far as looking for 5 to put forward, infrastructure funding, I've heard the resilience and disaster planning, renewable energy generation. Did we have other overlap or more input from council?
Were you including the land availability and streamlining one?
That's one that I hadn't heard other than me just mentioning it, but if you'd like that to be discussed as one of our priorities.
Oh, unfortunately, even my family says I discuss that too much. So yeah.
But I do hear support from that.
I will cast another vote for the cybersecurity. I think in the next couple years, who knows what's coming down the internet. And just, yeah, being able to be on top of that.
Well, actually, to give you an idea of what's coming down the pike in the next couple years, and it's definitely something that we should be concerned with.
I like the infrastructure funding as well.
Okay. I really do see that coming as our #1 priority.
I feel like every city's probably going to have as their #1 priority.
I am curious also on this water reuse.
I had that as well.
Yeah. But whether it makes my top 5 or not, I'm not sure.
And there really is work being done on getting a set of rules and procedures because it's something that a lot of people are looking into, and that there is want to explore that option. The issue arises in that DEQ and OHA not having the standards that people can work towards. And so at this point, every project is kind of on its own basis, but that doesn't lead a strong framework to make it easy or streamlined or for people to know that their investment is going to lead to something that can be put to best use. So that would just be support in not only working on the planning and projects, but what does that look like? Because sometimes I think, especially smaller communities like us, if there's a template, or there's technical support, it goes a long ways in like letting us make progress in those areas. Just trying to get it down to the 5. I will ask resilience and disaster planning versus emergency communications. I had the resilience and disaster planning as number 2, and there was other support, but I just want to reiterate that I think that emergency communication is important. Taxes are a hard thing to push in the state of Oregon. I know that. I also know that public safety and first responders need to be funded if we want that system to continue. Councilor Blanco, did you have something to say?
I need, no, I need to look at the two again because I see them kind of like being connected in so many ways, but I need to see how it was referenced in this paper. I need to reread it. So I'll hold my questions.
So what do we have right now towards our 5? Can you this?
Infrastructure funding, cybersecurity and support, renewable energy generation, and the land availability streamlining. I think I captured everyone's input. If there's something that you guys didn't hear or you think I'm not getting into our list, let me know.
I think it's a good list.
Yeah, we just have to narrow down our 5th one.
5th one. I would say the emergency response.
Thank you for that.
Can you repeat again? It's emergency response or?
Yeah, the resilience and disaster planning. And so that would just be pushing for funding in that area. You know, better preparedness. I know like our emergency response management is through the county, but really we lean on them for support and framework again. But they are very reliant on state funds for that.
Mhm.
And if we can't call 911, when there's an emergency, it doesn't matter how ready they
Yeah.
are.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I feel like.
I mean, so are we comfortable with putting the emergency communications into that?
Yeah.
The make it 5th?
I am
Okay.
comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Counselor Luker, we haven't heard from you at all. How do you feel about this list?
I like it. I think the communications definitely needs to be in there, but I also kind of think the preparedness needs to be in there too. So I'm with Councilor Blanco on that. I kind of want to go back through it again, but I definitely believe if we don't have the communications side, if we can't call for help, you can be prepared for whatever, but you don't have the help coming. So it's kind of pointless at that point, right?
Thank you. And I'm sorry, please speak out. I'm not the best at watching the chat and the screen and the people in front of me. I apologize for that. I don't mind drilling down a little bit. The 3 that were in the middle, the cybersecurity, renewable energy, and land availability. Is there any interest in swapping any of those out to have the emergency communications and the resilience and disaster?
Can we talk about the land availability? What was that one?
Yeah, I don't. That's all of it.
That one wasn't one of mine, so I don't remember it.
I just have my notes, and that was a.
On page 9 in the packet.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Just keep that.
So refining land use statutes to provide more clarity and legal certainty for cities, clarifying wetland statutes and inventories to allow efficient and orderly urbanization of land within the urban growth boundaries, streamlining UGB expansion and swap process for residential, commercial, industrial land, improving urban reserves process and land prioritization, and funding the technical assistance for code audits and updates to comply with new state statutes. We do have a complicated land use system. I do feel like this is a place that we can use support. We all know that something like a necessary code audit can really put a chunk in our budget if it's not something we're planning for and it's a mandate to comply with. That said, being candid, I feel like there are other entities out there that will use their lobbying power to work on this rather than cities. Or no, there will be cities that do, but as far as Amity's interests, I feel like there might be other entities that we could rely on pushing that forward for our benefit. If it's not like of utmost priority for us.
Well, and I think being on the outskirts in a community that energy resiliency and disaster planning seems more important in, you know, there's more fires, there's more storms, there's more winds, there's more opportunity for our power or water to go out or any type of disaster, and having backup plans and additional energy sources available to smaller communities that might not get back on the grid as soon as others is important.
Yeah, I would support a swap of that one with the other way.
Land use.
Yeah.
I'll ask our online counselors, is there opposition of swapping out the land availability for the resilience and disaster planning?
Well, I personally think are you talking about the housing production, full funding and all that? That one?
No, it was a different one in that
Oh.
same group.
Oh, okay.
It was the land use streamlining was what made our list.
Okay, yeah, the land use streamlining. I would not want to see that one go off the list only because the disaster planning is absolutely important. But I believe that land use is going to become a critical argument across this state in the next decade. And if we're not part of it, then we're just going to be subject to the results of it. And it might be worth staying on top of that wave rather than getting washed down by it. But I do not disagree that disaster planning is also critical, considering what's going on around us in the Northwest right now.
Thank you. Counselor Rachel Blanco or Counselor Luker, do you have input on one or the other land? What was it?
I think, Mayor, that they're both equally as important. So
Okay.
it's 50-50, you know, flip a coin for me. There's not one that I could lean and say, yeah, we really need to worry about this more than this. That's my input.
Blanco?
Yeah, it's really rough. I also I also feel like land use kind of affects disaster stuff. Because like misusing land can lead to making the disasters worse. So I guess I kind of lean towards the land use.
Okay. Counselor Shields, not to put you on the spot, but we're kind of leaning 3 for 3 of keeping what we have versus switching it out.
Well, honestly, I want to swap it out, but not with the disaster. I want to swap it out with maintain affordable energy and hardening the grid. Because as they already talked about in our presentation today, our grid's pretty old and decrepit, and the faster we can get that updated makes it that much more reliable. Sorry to throw a wrench in that.
That was another one that I, like, really all of the ones in the energy category felt important to me.
I mean, the renewables are nice and the disaster planning's good, but having good bones is probably more important in my opinion than all of those things, because that they all stem from that. Just my personal opinion.
And Councilor Bojorquez, how do you feel on the grid hardening versus renewable energy?
I mean, I question how much of local governments need to be in that when there's private companies profiting from this grid that are positioned with maintaining it.
There's lobbyists that are
Right.
working on that.
Right.
Without local support, it's going to be harder for them to do it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and just to bring it back, these are really choosing, we will get one vote. Nathan or I usually vote. And this is just the whole LOC membership and what the LOC will put forward as their priorities as they're lobbying on our behalf.
I'd just like to add that I agree with Councillor Shields on the grid, but the land availability and land use will also not only affect that grid and how and where it can be updated, but also other sources of energy that might become available to us because of that land use. But yeah, getting rid of archaic energy systems would be a good thing.
So I'm going to propose that we stick with the 5 that we had. Unless someone wants to. So that would be the infrastructure, the cyber, renewable energy, land availability, and emergency communications.
And the land availability isn't updating the lands available. It's updating the procedures around how those change. And so it's not gonna make any change if your city is not going to change them. It's just better streamlining the process so that it's a uniform process.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much the streamlining of all that I'm concerned with. It's the new loopholes that it creates that we should be especially aware of.
See, and I read this as the opposite of that. It's streamlining, allowing for those loopholes almost.
It always seems that way. However, governments have a way of finding new ones. It's an amazing skill. It's just a matter of how much money opens them up.
I think for me, I read it as it's just a better defining of terms and boundaries.
Yeah, because it says years of layering legislation with different requirements and new interpretations of existing laws have increased regulatory complexities that cities must navigate to be compliant with Oregon's land use system. So it's pretty much making it simpler. Well, I think we've had a lot of great discussion on all these, and being in that committee, I saw that every single one of these priorities is really talked through and of utmost importance, and that's why they are not prioritized within each section because they are all important. I think the initial 5 we talked about, we should stick with unless we really feel like we need to switch out. And that would be the land availability, emergency communications, renewable energy, cybersecurity, infrastructure being number 1.
I'm fine with that.
Consensus?
Yeah.
Okay.
When is that meeting where the LOC will actually determine what?
So
Like, what do we
ours
do?
need to be in September 25th.
Oh, so it's not.
And then they tally, and then I believe, is it at the October conference, they usually publish what the priorities for the next legislative session will be. So I anticipate at that conference, we'll bring that information back. And that does not mean that as all of these things go through and as the next session starts, that we can't advocate for all of them.
Sure.
Like there's information, we have people with knowledge, we have people at the LOC that will help us be informed in the ways we want to. We can go to Salem on any of these issues. If we do further reading and say, this is really important to me, this is really important to Amity, everything here, the LOC is going to have on their radar. And that is why some of the lists are pretty long. It's like, even if we don't think cities are going to choose this, this policy committee thinks it's important enough that it's part of the discussion. So, for tonight, I'm going to stick with that. We have a little bit of time. So if anyone has really strong feelings, bring it back to the next meeting and say, I made a mistake and readdress.
Fair enough.
Lillian Engel, 209 Southeast Rice Lane.
Okay.
So the League of Oregon Cities, how many cities does that include, and are they in one county
141 cities across the state.
across the state?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the legislative priorities, is that what the legislature sent to you folks to look over for consideration? Or is this what the
No.
committee came up with to then take to the legislature?
Yes. So the League of Oregon Cities has 5 policy committees that they appoint elected and appointed officials from across the state to populate these policy committees. So energy, water, all these. We worked over the last 5-ish months meeting to come up with a short list in each section of what we feel are top priorities for cities. And then the wider membership, so all 141 cities vote on what the priorities will be. And then LOC takes all that information and those are their lobbying priorities as they go and represent the cities.
Okay, so they're lobbying senators and representatives?
Yes.
And is there a monetary value that you give to these people to listen to you for compensation
Yeah.
for their time?
So we are a member of League of Oregon Cities. And so they provide all kinds of services, trainings, the lobbying aspect, networking events. Also, they will support us if we had trouble connecting with our representatives or senators, they would be that liaison to help us make sure that, because people are traveling across the state to meet, at the Capitol, they will be that facilitator. Trying to think what else they do, but it's a yearly membership that we put in our budget. Tasha, what do we pay?
I mean, it's pretty low. It's just a couple thousand.
Yeah.
For a city our
So the
size.
city of Amity pays a couple $1,000s a year to be a member of the League of Oregon Cities.
That's per city. That's not.
Yeah.
What, and it's all small cities. Okay,
It's cities of all sizes.
okay,
But
Yeah.
larger cities will pay more.
Yeah.
okay. And so it's lobbying to a
Yeah.
legislative group, or is it spoken in front of the whole legislature or senate?
Both.
Oh.
So yeah, they're
Okay.
they're involved with different organizations that will come. They have networking within lobbying groups, but they actually work with our representatives. So the representatives like on the water policy committee, just I'm most familiar with this, or the water caucus will go to the LOC and say, hey, we have some questions about water. We'd love to hear what the cities think. That LOC representative would go to the water policy committee members and say, hey, we have someone from the water caucus with questions about how this will affect a small rural city.
Okay, so it's not the committee member, not committee.
Yeah.
It's not the LOC that's making the approach. It's rather the legislative committee reaching out to
It
LOC.
goes both ways.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So the LOC is there. They're in Salem. They are showing up at the meetings. They have listening ears. They'll be invited to the governor's office or convenings. They will pull from their membership people with expertise or a situation. And so it really goes both ways. But I feel like the state at every level from the governor's office down also looks to that entity as a conduit to the cities.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on new business B? We'll move on to our collective bargaining agreement. So this is the beginning of a new 3-year contract. Nathan and I and Tasha have been in contract negotiations on the city's behalf. Nathan, do you want to give a rundown a little what that looked like and what we have before us tonight?
Yeah, quick rundown. So Mayor King, Natasha and I met with representatives of the union, both the shop steward here in the city and as well as a representative from the broader union. And specifically talked through various points of the union contract. The three things that they asked for were set numbers on COLAs for the next 3 years. They asked for to change language on the weather closure policy in the collective bargaining agreement. We ended up using the language from our personnel policies and just copying it over to the collective bargaining agreement. So continuing to use that same policy, but have it adopted more formally in that contract. And then the third thing that they asked for was a boot allowance. The new agreement specifies a reimbursable amount / allowance to be provided over a 2-year period. The city always had the obligation to provide like safe footwear for people that had basically extra requirements, right? If they're going to be outside or working around heavy equipment, and needed safer footwear. We always had the previous contract had an obligation in there for the city to provide that. It just wasn't specified dollar amount or how often. And so this just clarified some of those details. Oh, sorry, I thought I pulled out that last sentence. This is the final clean or the final version with those track changes in it. So you can see highlighted in red where the changes from the last union contract are, and read them specifically, but that essentially looked like a couple of meetings with the union and just kind of working back and forth. I believe we've reached an agreement though that we're both pretty happy with and should work well for all parties.
Yeah. And then just some clarification for myself and then the council. We have an executive session noted, and that is really, so the agreement came out in the packet. You saw the red line version. If any of you feel a need to discuss in depth or feel like this needs to go back for like we haven't done our job, or it's not something that you are able to accept, we can go into executive session to discuss that. If we're just going to approve it, we don't need to hold that executive session, but I'll just ask that anyone, if you have more than, a surface level clarification or staff question, just to go ahead and declare that, and we can do deeper deliberations or discussion in executive session, just to make sure we keep that above board. We wanted to have the option open, but it's not a necessity unless there's a counselor
Thank you.
that
Thank
needs
you.
it.
Yeah.
Is that, did I get that
Yeah,
right?
no, thank you
Okay.
for clarifying that. Yeah, that executive session is there if we need it, if we want. Basically, the provision that allows us to hold an executive session would be for the city council to discuss or to give direction to those assigned to deliberate on their behalf.
So if there was something here that you were like, we need you to go back and talk to the union again, I think as far as staff and I are concerned, we're good on the city side, with council approval. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
It all looks reasonable to me.
Okay. Any input from online?
No.
No, I'm good with it.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement with LIUNA Local 737 for the period of July 1st, 2026 through July 30th, 2029, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the collective bargaining agreement with LIUNA Local 375 for the period of July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2029, and authorize the mayor to sign. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. That was our last item of new business. We have no need for an executive session this evening. So skipping that, we will move into department reports and start with our city administrator.
Thank you. Let me, the biggest pieces of this report, excited that Amity Day went well. I think it went really well. We had a good time. We had a good crowd pretty much throughout the event. It felt like people stuck around and hung out for a lot longer. There were performances and other fun times. Had a great local band play for for an hour. And then got to follow that weekend with the pancake breakfast. Glad that came together and went really well as well. I know a lot of our fire department was out of town, being assigned to various wildfires on the east side of the state. The other one coming up, this Saturday, August 8th, will be the official ribbon cutting and open house of the city's water treatment plant. Consider joining us out there. The ribbon cutting will be at 11, and we'll follow that with guided tours of the treatment plant open to the public. So if you're interested in learning more about it or want to see just what the city spent $12 million on over the last 7 years, this will be a great chance for that. The last thing that I wanted to mention real quick, it's not on my monthly report, but I wanted to just kind of get councilor consensus, if you will, or city council consensus. Right now, the CDBG grant program is open, and CDBG has a couple of different grant programs within that. One is that we've used before is for infrastructure. We used it for the water treatment plant and applied for the CDBG funding about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, to get that funding. The program that I'm specifically looking at right now, though, is called housing rehabilitation. And that offers a grant up to about $500,000, of which 80% or most of it is used directly to support low or moderate income people within a community and make needed repairs or upgrades on houses, right? If somebody's roof is falling apart or siding needs redone, windows need upgraded, some of those, it's a great opportunity for those kinds of projects. The Housing Authority of Yamhill County actually reached out a little while ago and said, hey, we normally do this grant with Newburgh. Newburgh's doing something else this year. Would you be interested? And we were looking for a couple of cities to go in on it together. Didn't really get any interest from other small cities around us for a variety of reasons. But after talking with that person at the Housing Authority of Yamhill County a little bit more, we feel pretty confident that we could find or that there is enough of a need within the city of Amity, enough projects that could be done. He has some on a wait list already, like that have been sitting on a community or a county-wide wait list. And then if we're able to take those and then maybe advertise and get a couple more projects as well, that would put us right in the range for this grant. I mostly just wanted to kind of check in. Applying for and getting CDBG grant funding can be pretty time and resource intensive. However, I think this is a great opportunity for the city and current city staff to get a better feel for it. None of us were involved when it was applied for and received last time. And so this time would be with significant help from the Housing Authority of Yamhill County. There would still be some extra time, on city staff, particularly myself, but for the next, month or so while we get an application together. But after the program, if we receive the award, largely it looks like us subcontracting that to Housing Authority of Yamhill County, and then they run their normal programs. It's a grant that they're well experienced with, and that Business Oregon kind of reassured me and said it wouldn't take all of your time. So feeling good about it on a staff level, but and this isn't necessarily formal approval by the city council. That would come next month, but is anybody opposed to applying for a CDBG grant for housing rehabilitation?
I'd like to do something if no one minds, and that is ask to put Commissioner Johnston on the spot. So I have a question because I know at the board's last meeting, you talked about at least 2 possible CBDG applications that are coming from Yamhill County and the amount of funding that was available overall. I don't know which line, and you talked about there's different programs and there's different pots of money within, but that's just the background knowledge I have is that there's a couple more coming forward in competition, possibly.
Not like 100% competition because there is different pots based on the category that you're applying for. Yamhill County has applied for about $1 million for upgraded sewer systems in Cove Orchard. Out there's a bunch of individual sewer systems that we need to get upgraded per DEQ regulations. So that's Yamhill County's grant. There's another one through Juliet's house. They want us to be the writer for it, but they're actually going to write it, but they want us to have our name on it. That one I can't say a lot about. They're going to propose it to us on Thursday, so we'll know a lot more. I can tell you my main concern, which I said last Thursday, would be I don't want to back a grant that is going to hurt our chances at upgrading our infrastructure at Cove Orchard. It sounds like that won't be the case, but we should have Arthur Chaput with Business Oregon to answer any questions. Plus Juliet's house will be there to answer questions on their end too. So
Okay.
I don't have a lot of information for you, but I can tell you what we're applying
Okay.
for.
And I guess that's just since you were here, I might have tried to fumble through that, but since you were here, I just thought I would get it straight from our commissioner. So that is only one thing for us to consider. Thank you. That was
Yeah,
just
and
my
I
only
honestly, I
question.
would not make a decision based on what.
Yeah,
Look out for the best interests of Amity.
yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
It's just something to be said that there's other local projects that we might be competing against. I think Business Oregon and everyone involved is supportive no matter what we do. And the Housing Authority, I asked Nathan, they have extensive experience in helping municipalities through this process for these specific types of loans. So I feel like it's something that we should look more into if there's no opposition.
Yeah.
I realize that it would be a administrative burden, but it also sounds like it could be a real boon for the city.
Counselor Rachel Blanco or Counselor Luker, do you have any input or want to state any opposition to just getting more information and having staff like proceed with gathering what we would need?
Yeah, I would love
Me
to see
too.
more information on it.
I hear more information from Counselor Luker and Counselor Blanco.
I think it sounds really nice. Like, great.
Okay. Is that enough direction for you to bring something forward?
I think so. We'll go ahead and proceed and keep working through the beginning of the application process. And then, like I said, I think applications are due at the end of September, so you'll probably see myself and possibly a representative from the Housing Authority of Yamhill County at the September council meeting.
Okay.
Just before we move
Yeah.
on real quick. It sounds like we're going to be reshuffling your priorities a little bit over the next couple of months with this. I mean, what do you anticipate getting moved off? I know that's a complicated question, but I just
That's always a tough
I
question.
want to try to understand what we're asking you to do, I guess.
That is always a tough question, and I don't know. It's tough to say. I don't know how many hours it's going to end up being, right? Usually I find ways to make it all work, but a little bit, right? But there are things that fall by the wayside, and it's a good question that I haven't fully looked at yet. I will say, and I wanted to add onto this, the city council has previously talked about applying for CDBG funding for a potential new library space, or wastewater, or other infrastructure funding. Even though it's a different program, a lot of the pieces of the CDBG application are the same. And so if it's going to be my first one, I'd much rather take it on with Housing Authority of Yamhill County's help rather than trying to get through it you know what I mean, for a new library.
Like it's almost a chance for a mentorship through the process.
Of CDBG in general, yes. Like I said, different program within CDBG, but a lot of the federal requirements stay the same. Business Oregon anticipated that our workload wouldn't be too big because we've gone through a CDBG grant application within the last 10 years. A lot of the policies, there's just a lot of like checklists and things that you have to go through on the federal level to make sure you're eligible for funding and all of that. And a lot of those would have been done 10 years ago and would potentially still be in effect.
Quite a few of them were done when we started the process for the library as well. As far as the declarations that the council had to do to be in compliance. So that was within the last 3 years even.
Perfect. Yeah.
Is this, we only get one, right? Per year?
So I actually,
What's the tie-up of?
I asked that question of Business Oregon. You can have up to 2 open.
Okay.
And I think he said if we applied for another one next year, basically they would look at how far along timeline wise with the project we are versus how far along we are in the funding, right? To anticipate whether or not we're actually like getting it done.
And what did housing anticipate for a timeline on that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know if we've talked through that far yet, but
I would be interested to know what that is.
So
So be prepared for our questions next month, next
Yeah.
council meeting.
yeah, usually, so the timeline of expending CDBG grant funds, to my knowledge, it's 2 years, right? It's a 2-year. But I'm trying to think, I might be able to just, no, I don't have my email, but based on Arthur's response, though, I felt fairly confident that if we wanted to go for another one next year, we could apply for another one and still be eligible. Even if we have one open, if that makes sense. But I think the timeline for the whole grant program would be about 2 years.
Okay. Any additional questions for Nathan? Anything else to add? Nathan, before we move on?
I don't think so.
Tasha, do you have anything to add to your report?
Thank you.
I'll still be bringing the water balloons. Okay. Public Works, Library, City Engineer, City Attorney, Planning reports. Did we have any questions on those? Or anything to add?
I saw that we had a position leave for the library. Are we gonna fill that again, or is it just?
I think right now, based on discussions with Anne,
It sounded like they were gonna be okay.
yeah,
as is.
because we originally had 3.
Mhm.
We temporarily went up to 4 because one of the hiring rounds, we felt like we had 2 really good people that were kind of going to be more hit and miss, and we knew that there were a lot of health concerns upcoming, or just other potential absences, and I think we're anticipating that we'll be okay with the 2 for now, especially the summer reading program kind of comes to a close, and then for right now, we're not planning on hiring another one. No. Regardless of how many people are within the library, essentially, they use the same number of hours because only one person's there each day. But it just means each person
Is
gets
there
less.
3 on the library staff altogether now?
Right now, yes.
Yeah, okay.
There are 3. We're back
Yeah.
down to 3.
Okay. Which is the usual number for our usual hours.
It is.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? We'll move on to business from the mayor and city councilors. Councilor Bojarquez, do you have anything for the good of the order?
I just want to thank everyone who helped organize the 3rd Amity Day. I think a lot of hard work went into that. I just showed up and was there, but
All day.
I saw
All day.
all the hard work that went into it, and the planning that goes into that is a lot. So I think it's growing, it's getting bigger. There was more people there throughout the day. There were more vendors. I think everything is, a lot of people had fun.
Thank you. Councilor Shields, do you have anything for the good of the order?
Nothing to add.
Councilor Thompson?
I just wanted to remind everyone on council and in the general public that the filing deadline for the 2026 general election is coming up to be on city council, and we've got 3 seats that are open. Well, 3 seats, yeah. So anybody who wants to run for those needs to pick up an application packet from Tasha and get 25 signatures.
Thank you for the reminder. Councilor Rachel Blanco, do you have anything for the good of the order?
Nothing to add.
Councilor Luker, anything to add? Okay,
Nothing to add, Mayor.
thank you. Counselor Michael Blanco?
Nothing to add at this time.
All right, my report and final comments. Well, August 11th, National Night Out reschedule. I think that was a good call. I reached out to Nathan and staff yesterday and said, use your judgment, and it was tough, but I think just with the air quality, it feels better to be able to invite
Other communities did the same thing.
yeah, invite people out into the fresh air next week. I'm glad that we still get to have that opportunity for everyone to come out though. So I would love to see you all. Reminder of the staff council barbecue on August 20th. Movie in the park, it's August 28th. Is that correct? August 28th. Friday we'll be doing our final movie in the park. That's really all I have. And also the wrap up the last summer library event will be August 11th or
15.
no, the last open to the public event is August 12th, actually at the fire hall.
Oh,
Yes, August 12th at the fire
Okay.
hall. Yeah. And that is all I have for this evening. Anything else to add? If not, I will ask for a final motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Meeting adjourned at 7:32.